Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about why would you play more than one character?
Right. Why would you want to play more than one character? In the old days, I must admit that most of us, when I played, there was a large group because there wasn't that many games. Instead of breaking up into smaller groups, we just played one large group. And we're talking about between 6 and 8 people. And that was the norm, right, for us. And even at other times when we actually had like even more people, I think up to 10 players. So we were used to playing a lot of characters with a lot of other people. And every once in a while, somebody couldn't make it. Stan couldn't make the game. So either one or two things happened. Either we ignore Stan's character being there, or somebody would play Stan's character. So that was one way or one reason why people would play more than one character. But they really treated them like an NPC, right? They treated them like, oh yeah, Stan gets to attack on this turn, and those kind of things. And nobody was really totally responsible for Stan's character. I mean, somebody would be for that day, but it wasn't like somebody designated and was really careful about what they did with that character or how that character acted. And definitely there wasn't any RP. He was just, oh yeah, he's gonna attack here. Oh, he's gonna pay this money here, and stuff like that. Another reason probably people in the old days people played multiple characters is because you didn't have enough people to play, right? One of my friends, he would play with his brother, and when because they wanted to play more than they could come over our house, and he would play with his brother, and his brother would run like 3 or 4 characters. Now he would have. I'm guessing he had one central character that was his, and the other rest were like hirelings or NPCs. But we're talking about playing 2 characters, full-fledged characters in the game. I think another reason could be because the modules at the time when most people made modules or bought modules in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it was because the modules were really tough and they were deadly, right? If you go into a dungeon by yourself or with one character, most likely you wouldn't live. So you would have to have multiple characters. And some people probably, I'm guessing, treated the characters like full-fledged characters and not just like hirelings. Because we did have hirelings at one point in our games. They would fight every once in a while if we actually absolutely needed them to fight. But for the most part, they would carry stuff and set up our camp and stuff like that.
So that really wasn't 2 characters. That was just hirelings.
Right. But I think the closest we got to running 2 characters was when one of us couldn't make it, right? When one of us couldn't make the session. And I remember my friends playing my brother's character. I forgot his name. But
You forgot your friend's name or your brother's character's name?
My brother's character's name. They would normally run the game with him, without him, and they would just run his character. And they would try to make decisions based on how they felt that my brother would run that character. But for the most part, again, they weren't full-fledged trying to role-play that character.
It's kind of hard to role-play 2 characters at once.
I'm guessing it is. I agree. I think it's quite a feat to do. It's quite challenging, I should say. One recent game that does make you role play or have multiple characters is Dungeon Crawl Classics, where before you enter play, you have 4 to 6 characters, 0 level characters, and you put them through what they call the funnel, and it's exactly that. The funnel, only certain characters make it out of the funnel, and that character that comes out of the funnel is your first level character. But that's not really multiple characters. I mean, this is kind of like you don't get too attached to any of those characters because
it's like creating a character in Traveler where you could die at any moment.
You didn't like that part of the game, which is funny because I don't remember. Did you? Oh, you did. You died, and you were supposed to die, but basically you were kicked out of the. Didn't Philip change the rules so that if you died in the game, basically you?
I wish I would have died. Then I could have made a different character.
Your character wasn't even that bad. My character was terrible. He had spent like I don't know how much time in the service, and he had like 5 skills. This was like terrible.
I think I got 2 skills.
Okay, well, Yeah, but you were in and out of the service. So why would you want to play more than one character?
I wouldn't myself. It seems like way too much work.
I think you're right.
Some people say that if you play two characters, you get more experience playing the different races, classes, feats, powers.
That's true. I guess if you play the wizard and then you play the fighter in the same game, then you would have that experience of both, especially if you haven't played too many games or you just want to explore playing a different character that you normally play with.
Some people say that if you play two characters, you get to play twice as much.
Okay. I guess people who really like the spotlight, yes, that could be important to them.
I'm not sure about that one.
No?
No.
So something came to mind. I think Jolene mentioned it. Is playing two different characters in the same game, but different levels of play. For example, Pendragon. If you're playing Pendragon, you're usually playing a knight. And knights always have squires, right? So
or a lady in waiting or something like that.
Or lady in waiting. Most of the time, you just play the knight. The squires are NPCs. But it would be interesting to roleplay both, right? To roleplay the high level game, which is the knight and the circles that the knights are in, and then you have the squires who have to worry about tending the horses and keeping the equipment ready and in good condition. But at the same time, they are also having experiences that might be interesting to roleplay.
What I said was that because I know that people do this, they have two characters for that game a lot of times, so that they can be in when they're in different situations, they're not just sitting there doing nothing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But what I said was that if you were role playing the knight and a squire, that you should be role playing somebody else's squire.
That's what you did. Yeah, you did say that. And that's a great idea. Because if you play your own squire,
it's gonna sound like you.
Yeah, and then if you play another person's squire, I think it's enough difference that you will role play it differently. And
since Pendragon has a lot of court intrigue or palace intrigue, it makes it interesting to have two different views. You know, the knight view versus the squire view, or you could even play a lady in waiting or something like that. Different views to give you. So whatever you're doing, it's enough different that you're not just playing the knight and the squire the same way all the time.
Yes, exactly. No, I like that idea. I could definitely see playing something along those lines, and it doesn't have to be Pendragon, and it doesn't have to be knights and squires.
Well, I heard the other one was Morgan was saying that there was, I think it was Morgan or I read it somewhere, I don't know, that somebody in playing Call of Cthulhu had people who played there was a scenario where there were the rich people, right, that were like doing on their adventure, and then there were their servants. So they played different, so they could, if they weren't able to do something, then the other people were able to do it. So it was interesting.
That is interesting. So I wrote down lords and ladies versus their servants. So yeah, just along those lines, that's what you're talking about.
It just depends on the kind of game it is.
Right. I think that's a good idea, and I think that's interesting thing to explore. And because those two groups of people don't really mix that much, right? Like what was it? What was I gonna say? Downton Abbey, right? There was literally two stories going on all the time. There was the lords and the ladies of the manor and stuff, and their problems and what they were into, and then there was the servants and their problems and their experiences, which were more or less different, but at the same time no less intriguing, right? The lords and ladies' trials and tribulations weren't more important or weren't more exciting than the servants. They were just different, and because of the circumstances. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. I really like that idea, and I think that would be an excellent reason to have multiple characters, playing multiple characters by one player. That's pretty cool.
Well, I never really thought about playing multiple characters because we have plenty of players in our games.
Yeah.
But some people have multiple characters in their D&D games, and they have rules, specific rules, like you're not allowed to have both characters in the same scene or or you can't play both. Only one is allowed to be played at the table at one time. Yeah.
So you gotta have a conversation with yourself?
Yeah, you can't have a conversation with yourself. And if you do have to have a conversation with yourself, then somebody else has to play one of your characters.
Well, that's one of the horror stories I've heard, right, is what the GM is role playing two NPCs having a conversation with each other. I don't know if I've ever done that. I've come close.
I don't think you've ever done that.
No, okay. I just thought maybe in my past I've done that, but I can't remember if I did. But I just remember being conscious of the fact that I didn't want to have that, and it's not the Saul hour or whatever you want to call it. You know?
Yeah, I don't think anyone should have a conversation with themselves at the table.
But I've heard I've heard horror stories, of people writing into different podcasts where people write in and they talk about their horror stories, and that one was like they had like a conversation for a half an hour. I mean, not the GM by himself, because he was playing two different people. But no, that we don't want that kind of role play. The GM has all the characters that he can role play, so he doesn't have to totally have that situation happen. Would not be good.
I think that you have to have if you were going to do that, you would need the characters to be different enough that you weren't playing the exact same yeah.
Was it thing 1 and thing 2?
No.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you definitely want to have a character, the character's so different that you almost couldn't play them the same, right? Maybe like if you play a ranger, elf ranger, and a dwarf cleric. So those, just instantly, those two character types are different. They wouldn't act the same way. That's what I'm thinking. So if you can do something like that would help you keep your characters straight as a player. If you have such different types of characters that you are playing, and for whatever reason you're playing two characters, like you said, it might be just to explore different aspects of the game, from a combat heavy specialist to a healer type thing, which would be interesting, I guess, if you want to experience as much as you can in a short time period. Or a lot of people believe that they have to have a balanced party, at least in Dungeons and Dragons, and nobody wants to play the cleric. So I'm like, well, I really don't want to play a cleric, but I'll play a cleric if I'm allowed to play what I really want to play, which is an elven ranger. So that might happen.
I didn't know you wanted to play an elven ranger.
No, I don't. I'm just saying that a player might feel that way, but feels that, well, if a player goes, well, we really need a cleric or we need a healer, and you don't have a bard, you don't have a druid, and your GM doesn't want to give you 101 healing potions, then somebody might say, well, I really think somebody should play a healer. Nobody wants to play one, so I'll do it. But I want to have an elven ranger. That's really what I want to play. But then is he really a player character, or is he just a hireling or a NPC? That
you should just have a hireling if you want that.
That's true. Well, the problem is hirelings sometimes don't heal you when they want you to.
That's only on video games.
I threw that in because our son, he plays with him and his other friend. There's only two of them, and they don't play with a massive group, and they always need a healer, right? And so they hire cleric hirelings to heal them. The AI controlling the NPC doesn't always do what they want him to do. Like, he'll heal himself, or
as Augustine's dying,
as my son's character is dying, which probably is what makes him angry. And then he laughs when the other guy's hireling heals himself, or heals his hireling instead of healing the player characters, which I think that's bad programming. But I say just find somebody who likes to play the cleric. That's what you should do. So playing multiple characters, I think there's some things you should keep in mind, right? Each character should have their own personality. That's a must. And I think if you're going to try to attempt this, you have to give it that college try of making those characters different. Try not to talk in the same manner. Try to talk with an accent to give them each a different personality.
It doesn't have to be an accent. You can just talk differently.
Yeah, but accent, I guess you're right. But accents would help, or just a different manner of speaking. Just to keep everybody straight. If players are around the table, well, in this case, around the virtual table, and you talk a certain way, or talk the same way, they may not know who's talking, right? Oh, hold on, is that Finian talking? the bard, or is that Juster, the cleric? Oh no, that's Finian, the bard. Oh, okay. Well, how can I tell? Unless you you raise your right hand for Phineas and your left. No, you should be able to try to give those characters enough difference in personality that when you talk in a certain way and you're speaking to the rest of your group, your party, that they know who they're talking to. Some people may not be paying attention, so they may not realize, oh, I thought the other guy was talking. Oh no, I know, okay. But at least try. Let's give them a personality. I think a good way of doing it is kind of play it over the top, because then people really then it's obvious.
Well, I have a couple ideas on that. Okay. Instead of making them full-fledged characters, make them like more of a companion. Ooh. Like, this is the person that you're with, and then they're not only if you fall down do they actually come out and do stuff, or they just do companion stuff, right?
Oh, okay. So they're not full-fledged characters, or in a sense, they're not. I mean, there may be characters, but they're not. You don't role play them all the time,
right?
Okay.
Or you can make them so they're pool characters, so everybody in the party can pick them up and play them when they need to.
You know what I find is people are jealous. If they really like a character, they don't want other people touching their character.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to have multiple characters at the table, you should come up with rules that are going to make it easier to...
So it's kind of like a pool of NPCs, kind of? Or, I mean, they're not NPCs, but they're full-fledged characters. But like you say, if somebody goes down or gets really hurt, you can run with that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can have that character come in and pull that person out of the fray, give them a healing potion. Or heal them.
So get curb stomped by the monster and killed instantly. That's a good idea.
I don't know. I think you would want to make sure that you would have to have rules, right? Because you can't have someone just... You would have to have some kind of hat or something that you put on when you played a different character, so I would know who you were or why.
I don't know. I think you're right. I think the problem is online now. I guess you could... I don't know what you could do... online, when you're around the table, you could, I don't know, put on a hat or raise your right hand, and that means that you're trying to talk with a certain character in mind. But I think it's, like I said, I think the easiest thing is to probably try to develop some way of speaking that is discernibly different from the other character.
I also think that if you have multiple characters, you shouldn't send one out as cannon fodder. I'm just saying, because someone might get upset, right?
The canary
Bob is going to go out there and stand in front of the dragon and try to reason with him. Well, I liked Bob.
After you shot a couple arrows at the dragon? Yeah, okay. Let's see if he's really mad. Oh, Bob is toast. Okay, yeah, he was really
I don't
mad.
know. I think that there's more cons than pros for playing two characters. I see there's some games like what's that game? The Dark Apocalypse World. You can play two characters and it gives you experience somehow. I don't know. I just read that on one of the boards and I don't know what that means.
Game. Interesting. How would you dispense experience? Really? Because if you play multiple characters, and let's say not everybody's playing a multiple character, let's say Dungeons and Dragons, more or less experience. Usually, there's a big bag of experience that everybody goes into the kitty, and then it's distributed to the characters. So will that character get a full-fledged share of the experience?
Oh, see, I think D&D players, mini-maxers wouldn't like that.
No, they won't, exactly.
But I think that would be good if you want the character to keep up with the group.
Oh, definitely. So you would have to do that.
I would.
And if not, that character will slowly become less and less.
Where experience is dealt out differently than D&D, I think it would be a lot easier to do.
Certain games, let's say like the One Ring, every time you do a successful action, you get a little check mark. So that's dependent on each person's actions and successes.
Yeah.
And then like in we didn't discuss it in the liminal game, but if you roll a double ones, you get a check mark on the box
for experience. Because you failed horribly.
So not everybody's going to get that check mark. So the characters might advance at different rates in those kind of games.
I guess that if you're playing with like just two other players, like you're the GM and you have two players, and you might need extra people, especially if you're playing D&D, because because unless you're
or
going
a
to
combat heavy game.
or you're going to have to do something that's not combat heavy because one of you is going to go down.
I think we talked about it before, easy games that would have, where it would be necessary to have, not necessary, where it would be easy to have less number of players would be like an investigative game where you
But
could
even
just,
then, if you're investigators, if you really should
need
have
backup.
3 players and you only have 2 players, they don't have all the skills to figure out all the traps or clues or whatever, right?
That's true.
Then they're just going to be banging their head going, I don't understand. So you might need to bring in an NPC or...
that's NPC. Well, yeah, you're right. Or like they could play 2 characters each.
Right. So that would be... Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I have a hard enough time just playing one character during a session. I can't imagine trying to play 2. I do like the idea of pool characters, though. And since we played more Call of Cthulhu, I understand having backup characters so that, when you die, someone else is there, right?
Okay, what do you mean by pool characters?
Pool characters where everybody could pick up the character and play it.
Oh, a pool of characters, yes. But is that like everybody does that, or is it you have your main character and then if your character goes down, there's a pool of characters you can draw from? That's what you mean, right?
I meant like when we were talking about playing 2 characters where the second character wouldn't be actually your character. It would be part of if you wanted to, if you needed the cleric, then somebody would pick up the cleric and play it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Or if you needed... I don't know, a certain set of skills that not every other character has, you would pool that. There's a pool of character, literally. Interesting.
For Call of Cthulhu, though, I think the problem is that you die easily.
I think once you're over that hurdle of character dying, and you come into the game not being too attached to the character, but I don't know, how hard is it to make a character in Call of Cthulhu? We've made characters in Call of Cthulhu, didn't we?
Yeah, but usually the GM has other characters in the game that you can pick up and play.
Yeah, but we made...
It didn't seem that easy to me.
No? I thought we made characters.
We did.
Okay. I don't remember it being that difficult, but you're right. Do you really want to...
Are you going to have to stop in the middle of the game to make a new character?
Well, I think you would make a character in advance, right? But then how would you introduce that character in the game? I think what happened in Morgan's game is when we were playing, and I don't know if anybody died.
You died, and you picked up the sheriff's character.
Oh, that's right, the Western one, right?
Yeah.
So I just picked up the sheriff character.
He was already shot though, so you were playing for the.
I was already wounded. I was gonna die anyway. I think the sheriff was already gonna die, just a matter of time. That was a lucky shot though, that he shot me in the head. That was BS. I have to admit, I didn't like that game, Morgan. Actually, I did. It was 4 hours to Yuma?
Reno.
I was thinking, what was I thinking about? I was thinking, what's the difference between hirelings and role-playing secondary characters? I'm not sure there would be too much difference other than the GM saying, well, you're going to role-play your hireling because I don't want to do it. Reducing the strain on the GM.
I've heard about GMs, and I think we talked about it before, who have, when we were talking about NPCs, who have like rules at the table, like if you need a NPC, that you get extra points or you get extra whatever if you take up that NPC and play it for the GM, so that and create it, or you brought these NPCs to the table so that when the GM needs an NPC, you can take up that part and play it with the GM.
So you're rewarding the player
for creating these
and role playing them.
Yeah,
that would definitely motivate players to take up that idea of role playing hirelings and stuff. So there wouldn't be these cookie cutter cutouts of people.
Right.
Yeah, I think I like that too. I think I think anything that would lessen the burden of the GM would be pretty cool. But then again, the GM would really have to trust you playing a hireling correctly, or in a way that, now is a hireling really gonna like let's say you're next to a dragon and he just beats you down, is he really gonna like go next to the maul of the dragon and drag out your body? I don't know. I don't know if hireling would do that. You know what I'm saying?
Depending on how much you were paying them.
Well, let's say the character.
You're invested in that hireling, then maybe.
No, but let's say your character is the one that went down, And so my hireling will do that, no problem. But your GM's going, well, and the other players are going, well, would he really? How much do you pay him? I think you pay him below rate.
Well, that's why instead of having a hireling, you have a companion.
So you care a little bit more about him.
Yeah.
So it's a closer relationship between the player, the character, and
although I think it's a good idea if you have a companion that someone else at the table has to play it.
I really like that idea. I really like kind of like the knight and squire. Like you play other people's squire, you have a companion, but other people at the table play that companion. So you don't really have two characters that have the same motivation, same goal, kind of.
Right. You created the companion, but somebody else gets to role play it.
Right. I really like that idea, and I think that would do well in a really small game with small players, where
in a game with few players, not small
low,
players.
Yeah. We don't discriminate in size. What I was gonna say, player count is what I'm talking about. Yes, not their stature.
Yes,
because we used to play with a lot of small stature players, our children, but our child, but he's not so small anymore. You're right. I think this is an interesting topic. I think we kind of went away from the character
multiple characters.
But I think there's different reasons why people would want to play multiple characters in an RPG.
Yes.
And there's different motivations. Like there's the Augustine motivation is to keep my character alive because I get hit a lot and I need a cleric and he's just gonna heal me and not worry about himself. That he will sacrifice himself.
That only works if the cleric will do that for you. And as he's found, NPC clerics on video games don't do that for you.
Yeah, they're not gonna heal you
as they're dying
and not worry about themselves. Right? I'm gonna spend this last heal on you. No, I'm gonna heal myself, and hopefully I'll
pick up your stone and carry it back to the portal.
to the resurrection portal. So you've been paying attention to that game, I guess.
They play it. Him and Alan play it all the time, and I have to listen to him. So
yeah, that's funny. Let me see.
The only thing is, if you have a large group, I would say don't let people play multiple players because it would just take forever.
Yes.
Can you imagine a combat where everybody had two players?
No. Yeah, if you have a table, I would say
if you have a table of four or more,
higher,
you're not going to want extra.
No.
Unless it's the
knights
and squires or servants and
lords.
Yeah, or that way, or you have an upper class, lower class kind of thing going on. So you have multiple things, but you would have multiple storylines, right? Yes. I like that idea. I like that. I think it'd be hard to run as a GM, in the sense that keeping the storyline straight. And you just do scenes. You cut from one scene to the other scene, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right. What happens when they mix though? So every once in a while the servants but they don't mix that much. You're right. They're just like, oh, saddle my horse. Okay, so yes, sir. Unsaddle my horse. Oh, yes, sir. Get my armor. Okay, and then the servants are exactly the same way. You might have to deliver coffee or crumpets to the people upstairs, but
you might send your servant to find out information from other servants.
Yes, or send them on errands in the city or town
to discover things. Yes,
or eavesdrop on other squires to see what they say about stuff.
So, have we played this multiple player thing to the end?
I was only going to say that if you're going to play multiple characters, like I said before, they should have their own personality. Each character should have a driving force that motivates their actions, right? And that's everybody. And that includes the other MPs, the other character, the second character, whatever you want to play.
See, he's already getting confused and he's not even playing two characters.
I think unless you really are in a bind as far as you need more characters in the game to run the game, I would just make the game simpler or less deadly or whatever it is, so two people could play without having to depend on a non-player character or a secondary character, each one carrying a secondary character. People are out there don't want to do that. They want to run the game, the adventure as written, or their own adventure is geared for that number of players, and that's what they need. And so you would have to run multiple characters. I think the main thing is to keep your characters straight between the two that you're playing or whatever. Like I said, give them their own personality and their motivations, and try to give them their own way of speech. That way, people are confused as to who they're talking to at any one time. I think you could do it. I think it's gonna be tough. I think people who like acting and improvisation are really the ones who are gonna like this kind of play. But for the most part, most people are probably they'll be happy with just having a hireling than having a whole character that they have to run.
Yes.
My opinion. I think.
There you go. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
And you have a good day.